What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about that fourth mysterious game at the Xbox Developer Direct. What is it? What are the rumors that we're hearing about it? I want to kind of go over both those parts in this video. Okay, so this comes from Jez Corden, who's, got an okay track record. Not the best, not the worst, kind of right in the middle. So take it for what it's worth. I guess he could be wrong, but I don't know. Because it's a Xbox Direct, it feels right up his alley. This is not something that you would expect the guy to get wrong, right? So he says that there's also a mysterious fourth game, and I won't spoil what it is, but our sources indicate that it is a new entry in a legendary Japanese IP which has decades of history and should make a lot of fans happy. Now, he actually goes on to name drop, and this is not like what it has to be, but he does name drop Square Enix, Final Fantasy, right? Kind of tying those two together, Genshin Impact, and then also Sega and Atlas for Persona. Now, something that I've seen people talk about, and I think I would echo it as well, because he dropped those names, I feel like it can't be those. I mean, you can look at them individually, and we can do that right now, but I think just the simple fact that he went on to use those as examples of kind of like how Xbox is moving in the right direction, with these Japanese companies, which is good. I'm not saying that's a negative, but because he says those ones specifically, I feel like, okay, well, is he going to say Final Fantasy, and then it's actually Final Fantasy? He was just using it as an example, but it wasn't the thing. Right after, he said he wasn't going to spoil what it was, right? So it's just something to kind of keep in mind. But I mean, again, you can look at those individually if you want to. For Final Fantasy, I mean, that does actually kind of line up. Like, I wouldn't be shocked, because you have the rumors that we just talked about like a week ago of Final Fantasy jumping to Xbox, right? You have 7 Remake and Rebirth. Now, Remake is supposedly supposed to come this year, and then Rebirth is supposed to come next year to Xbox. So, I mean, could it be a Remake announcement that it's coming to Xbox? Yeah, that's possible. And, I mean, does it fit the criteria of what he says? Is it a decades-old kind of game? Yes. Would it make a lot of fans happy? The thing is, right, it's like, well, what is a legendary Japanese IP? And not just that, what does it mean to him, right? Because he's the one writing it. So when he says it's a legendary Japanese IP, what does he think is legendary? And that's tough, because I don't know the guy. A lot of people online don't know the guy, so it's kind of hard to read into that. But, just to kind of go over even the Persona thing, I mean, I was told this news because I was actually busy, and I got a text saying, hey, did you see this? And for me, Persona was actually the first thing that kind of came to mind, because it's like, okay, well, that's decades old, it's a long time, and we're waiting on Persona 6, but it's like, would Persona 6 really be announced at an Xbox Direct? It's not to diminish it, because as I've said, I'm actually really excited for this one, with Doom leading it off, being kind of like the headliner. I think it can be I think it could be the best Direct they've ever done. So even though it's kind of smaller compared to their June event, I still think it actually has potential to be massive. So it's not to put it down or anything, I guess is what I'm saying, but Persona 6, I just don't know if it makes sense to do that there. So, okay, let me get into, I mean, those are kind of dismissing almost what we've heard. There was one good one that I saw, and I do kind of agree with, I think I would lean this way more than anything, is Nier. So this one does apply. I guess you almost have to kind of stretch definitions, though, kind of to start. So the first Nier game came out back in 2010, right? So it's exactly 15 years old. So it is more than 1 decade. So you could say decades, even though it's like 1.5. That's about the most stretching I think you have to do, though, because is it a legendary IP? I do think when you think about specifically Nier Automata, right, that is a game that many people would say is legendary, right? So I would say it kind of classifies. You can check that one off. Would it make a lot of people happy? Well, literally a numbers game. Nier has only grown in popularity, right? And the last one, we just talked about it, it reached many millions of sales. Like, this is a game franchise that does really well, and I mean, it's not even like a giant needing to be awoken. It's a game that already did extremely well. I think it's just kind of on the up and up. Okay, so for me personally, I think all of those things kind of line up. It is technically more than a decade old. It is legendary. It would make people happy. And also from their end, not just what Jez Corden says in Xbox, but like from the end of Nier, they literally just talked about, I made a video about it like 2 weeks ago. They just talked about how for the 15-year anniversary, they're thinking and they're pretty likely going to announce the next game this year. So they've already heavily teased that. They said in a tweet like a few weeks ago. I would not be shocked, right, if that kind of lines up. I think it checks everything, and I think it's a game waiting to go. You know what I mean? I mean, technically, you could argue that for all of them. Like Final Fantasy VII, we just heard that remake is going to come to Xbox, so like that's a game almost waiting on an announcement. Persona, we've been waiting on Persona 6 for like 2-3 years to be announced. I mean, so you can make that argument. I would maybe to play devil's advocate against myself. But I don't know. I just feel because of that anniversary, they just said they're looking to do something to celebrate this year, right? And to literally announce their next game. I do feel like that one is the one that makes the most sense. I mean, there's like Dragon Quest. I heard that kind of situation be thrown out. I mean, Dragon Quest has been a franchise, and the most recently announced game, let's say, has been MIA for freaking years at this point. So that could definitely be a good one, right? I guess you could stretch it even beyond that, but for me, I mean, I think Nier makes the most sense. My jaw would hit the floor if it was Persona. And then Final Fantasy, I feel like, is kind of the safest thing, right? It's nothing gigantic. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it actually would be, right? Just to kind of hear, okay, 7 that was so linked to PlayStation for even way, way before it actually released, right? Because it was announced so early. That would be, I guess, big in that way. But I don't know. I think Nier and Persona would be like next level stuff. And then Final Fantasy's like, okay, well, we know it's going to happen. We're just kind of waiting on it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.